Welcome, silent aspirants. Welcome to the hidden depths of surrealism. Carl Jung once said, "Through pride, we are ever deceiving ourselves, and this self-deception, this profound lie, is the very foundation of all unnecessary human worry." Have you ever truly realized that there are agonizing phases in life when you work twice as hard, strain every nerve, yet everything becomes even more tangled, more chaotic? You think more frantically, you try more desperately, you worry more endlessly. But the results not only fail to improve, they become harder to understand. Meanwhile, in other quieter moments of your life, the very same you simply breathes more slowly, stopping your worry for a single conscious moment. Suddenly, everything flows so smoothly, so effortlessly, you can't logically explain it. I will now generate chunk 2 of 7, ensuring it is slightly larger and even more fragmented than the previous one to force conversational pauses. I will maintain the strict 10,000 character minimum and the Jungian surrealism theme, focusing on the concepts of the noisy ego, the silent unconscious, and the return to inner clarity. Here is the highly expanded and humanized chunk 2 of 7, the silent unconscious and the ego's noise, chunk 2 of 7. This chunk focuses on the contrast between the loud, worry-filled ego and the quiet, guiding unconscious, introducing the idea that true insight comes only in stillness, ensuring the 10,000-plus character minimum. A strange, beautiful thing happens when you begin stepping out of the ego's frantic zone of constant worry. It's not that the world immediately becomes easier or that your problems magically vanish, but inside you, a new expansive inner space suddenly opens, a vital psychic space you had never truly seen before, because your mind had been too loud, too rushed, too completely full of the ego's toxic questions. Questions like, what if? What if I'm wrong? What if people don't like me? What if I fail publicly? The ego speaks loudly, constantly demanding attention. The unconscious speaks softly, through the quiet rhythm of your breath. There are prolonged periods in life when you cannot hear your true self. Not because your soul is silent, but because you live under a sky of noise, a dense polluting cloud of assumptions and self-created fears. The constant demanding voice of the ego, it must be like this, it must be like that, it must conform to my prediction. Worry is the strongest, most disruptive form of this inner noise. It makes your mind tremble, like water being violently churned by a strong wind. In that chaotic state, you cannot see the bottom, just as you cannot hear the whispers of the self when the mind is loud and agitated. Carl Jung believed that intuition never shouts. It only speaks to those who are quiet enough, still enough, to hear its subtle counsel. He once wrote, "In each of us, there is another whom we do not know, and that inner one, the guiding self, only steps out. When the noisy sky falls silent, when you stop imposing your will, when you stop forcing the external outcome, and when the inner space becomes wide enough, clear enough, for even the smallest signal to be noticed and recognized. And that is precisely why the more you push, the more you force, the more you panic, the more tangled your external reality becomes. You act from fear, not from clarity. You make choices from reaction, not awareness. But when you let go of worry, even just a little, the internal chaos begins to settle and something profound happens. You begin hearing yourself again. I once knew a woman who worked in interior design. She always felt she was not good enough, not creative enough, not bold enough, even though her clients deeply loved her style. Every time she received a new project, she worried so much she would sketch dozens of drafts, then tear them up, sketch again, tear again. She said her mind always felt like burned electrical wires, terrified of being wrong, afraid of judgment, afraid of failure. One day, exhausted from too many sleepless nights, she put her pen down and said, "All right, I'm not trying anymore." The sentence sounds simple, but for many people, it is the powerful, necessary moment when the ego stops operating. She made tea, opened the window for the breeze, and simply sat there. No thinking, no forcing, no pushing herself to create anything. 10 minutes later, while looking at a small plant on her desk, She suddenly stood up and began sketching. That design would later become the most beloved, most renowned work of her entire career, not because she suddenly became more talented, but because the unconscious finally had the space, the stillness to send its signal. The story of Samuel in the Bible also reflects this deep truth. As a child, Samuel heard a vague call in the night and thought someone was calling him physically. He ran to ask his teacher, running back and forth 3 times, but only when his teacher said, "Stand still," and when the voice calls again, say, "I am listening." Did Samuel realize it was the voice of a higher guidance? The unconscious is the same. It cannot speak to you while you are running, while you are in frantic motion. It only speaks when you are willing to be absolutely still. If you pay attention, most of the wisest, most impactful decisions in your life have never come from panic or urgency. They come in moments when you stop forcing, when you walk alone, when you bathe, when you watch the rain, when you just let go of some pointless internal struggle. That is when the self, the most mature, wisest version of you, sends tiny but precise signals you cannot deny. Because when you stop worrying, you don't just regain temporary calm, you regain sight. You recognize what truly belongs to you and what doesn't. You see the difference between the path you want and the path you fear. And most importantly, you begin hearing the deep voice inside you again, the voice you lost inside the cloud of the ego's noise. And that is the gentle, yet profound nature of this journey. When you stop worrying, everything starts to go well. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you no longer create noise that hides the inner guidance. You allow the unconscious to step forward. You allow intuition to lead softly. And from that moment, the path ahead becomes clearer, as if life finally returns to its natural, deep rhythm. A rhythm you can see, feel, and follow without forcing yourself through anxiety. If you have ever felt that strange moment, when simply stopping worrying for a bit makes everything clearer, leave one word: clarity. It will be a small but powerful signal that you are consciously stepping into the phase where the unconscious leads and life begins to open at its natural pace. After you realize that the unconscious only speaks when the mind becomes profoundly still, a deeper, more challenging truth begins to reveal itself. Many of your most agonizing worries do not come from current external circumstances at all, but from parts of yourself that you have not yet dared to face or integrate. And this is precisely where you encounter the core layer that Carl Jung devoted his entire life to studying: the shadow. Worry is not a reliable warning about the future. It is the persistent, haunting echo of the darkness within you, desperately trying to surface and be seen. Carl Jung once wrote profoundly, "What you resist not only persists but grows in size. The more fiercely you avoid a specific part of yourself, a past wound, a perceived failure, an unwanted trait, the more that part tries to step out, not through gentle, rational thoughts, but through consuming worry, vague anxiety, and a debilitating sense of foreboding that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. Worry, at its deepest psychological level, is the shadow wanting to be seen and integrated. Pay careful attention to the pattern. Every type of chronic worry carries a specific diagnostic message about your internal state. Those who always worry they're not enough, not good enough, not competent enough, not worthy enough, usually carry a shadow related to damaged self-esteem or the internalized judgments of others. Those who fear sudden, complete abandonment, whose hearts drop when someone delays replying to a message, carry an old, unhealed wound of being tragically left behind. Those who fear others dislike them are actually facing a subtler shadow, the profound fact that they themselves are judging themselves mercilessly. Worry does not speak about the chaotic world. It speaks only about you. It points directly to the place inside you that is craving immediate, necessary healing. In Jungian therapy, a woman once shared that she always panicked whenever someone was silent with her. When friends sent short replies, she immediately assumed they were angry. When her partner was busy, she became convinced he was about to suddenly leave her. She ride this paralyzing worry into every single relationship, making everything heavier, more complicated, and more fragile than she ever intended. During one session, her therapist asked her the diagnostic question, "What, at its core, are you most afraid of?" She cried and said, I'm afraid they'll leave. But when they went deeper into the memory, the real truth emerged. She wasn't actually afraid of present abandonment. She was terrified of reliving the moment when she was 7, when her mother left home for days without a word of explanation. Her acute worry did not belong to the present. It belonged entirely to a past memory. That is the essence of shadow projection. You are not truly worried about what is happening right now. You are worried about what has structurally hurt you before. The old shadow finds opportunities to surface through new benign situations, making you mistakenly think you are reacting to others, when in fact you are reacting only to your unhealed self. Imagine your mind as a large, dark room. When the lights are off, anything in there, a simple chair, an old coat, a statue, can become terrifying. You only see its distorted shadow on the wall, stretched long, shapeless, threatening. You fear not because there is a monster, but because you cannot see the truth of the object itself. But once you turn on a small light, you sigh in relief. The thing that terrified you was only a harmless coat hanging on a hook. Your worries are the same. They are magnified illusions of the things you have not yet illuminated with consciousness. From a neuroscientific perspective, this mechanism is simple and physical. When you encounter something anxiety-provoking, the brain activates the amygdala, the region that handles primal fear. The amygdala does not distinguish between real danger and memory of danger. If something in the present even faintly resembles an old traumatic experience, the brain triggers the same high alert it did when you were originally hurt. You do not worry because of what is happening now. You worry because your body is remembering a wound you never fully integrated or healed. And the beautiful, liberating thing is, you don't have to try to erase worry violently. When you heal the part inside that was abandoned, the worry disappears on its own. When you dare to look directly into the shadow, look into the wound, the fear, the memory you buried, you reclaim the psychic energy trapped inside it. And fascinatingly, once the shadow is seen, acknowledged, and integrated, it no longer demands attention through worry. It melts, softens, and integrates into the whole self. That is why when you stop worrying, everything begins to go in the right direction. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you no longer view the world through distorted fragments of the past. You see with the eyes of the present, with the clarity of the self, the most mature and awake part of you. And when that happens, worry is no longer the enemy. It becomes the messenger pointing precisely to the place you need profound healing. Every chronic worry is a doorway leading you back toward your true self. And from the moment you choose to open that door, the path ahead begins to brighten, calmer, clearer, and more aligned than ever before. Have you ever truly wondered why, even when you understand the shadow, even when you understand that worries are merely projections from the unconscious, there are still days when you feel utterly exhausted, simply because you thought too much, as if nothing truly happened externally, yet your body feels heavy, your mind tired, and your heart profoundly drained. This is the precise moment when you step into a deeper layer of the entire worry mechanism, when worry is no longer just a fleeting emotion, but becomes a structural form of psychic energy leakage. Carl Jung believed that libido, the universal psychic energy, always flows intensely in the direction you place your attention. He once said profoundly, "Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling." And because of this fundamental principle, whatever you intensely focus on will inevitably grow, even when that focus is paralyzing, catastrophic fear. Worry drains you, not because it is too structurally strong, but because you continuously feed it with your own finite, precious psychic energy. Every time you obsessively imagine the worst thing that could possibly happen, your psychic energy is immediately pulled into that worst possible version of the future. The more you compulsively think about the negative scenario, the bigger and more real it grows internally. The more you intensely fear the scenario, the more it sucks your energy like psychological quicksand. And then there are those bewildering days when you physically do nothing yet feel completely exhausted, not because you are physically weak, but because your vital energy has been silently consumed by catastrophic scenarios that never actually happened in reality. A viewer of our channel who works in financial consulting once shared that there was a prolonged phase when he always thought he was not smart enough, not competitive enough. So every time he received a new client proposal, He analyzed 100 worst-case possibilities. The client criticizes him publicly. The deal falls apart. His reputation gets destroyed. But strangely, even though none of that had actually happened, he felt as tired as if he had run a full marathon. One day, after receiving simple advice from his mentor, instead of thinking about the worst outcome, he focused only on each small, achievable step in the present. A calculation, a single email, one idea. My energy came back, he said. Not because I suddenly became smarter, but because I stopped feeding what hadn't happened. And from that precise moment, his work began to flow effortlessly. Imagine a simple, tragic image, a cracked water jar. No matter how much water you pour into it, it continuously leaks. Worry is that psychological crack. The more you think, analyze, fear, and try to desperately control the future, the more the subtle psychic energy inside you leaks out of the container of your being. But when you stop worrying, stop pouring water into what is unnecessary, the jar begins to retain its wholeness again, and you feel lighter, clearer, and intensely focused. A powerful, real-world example of attention energy mastery is tennis legend Serena Williams. She once shared that what made her win was not just superior strength or technique, but her absolute ability to not let the mind run ahead of the body. While competing, instead of worrying about the next point or possible failure, she focused entirely on the shot right in front of her. Where your mind goes, your energy follows, she said. If your mind goes to fear, your energy leaves your body. This is the Jungian spirit in its purest, most practical form. Psychic energy always flows to where you place your conscious attention. Serena did not win because she had no fear. She won because she didn't feed the fear. Likewise, in everyday life, sustained success does not belong to the smartest, but to the most mindful, to those who know how to gather their energy back to the center, instead of letting it leak into unnecessary, catastrophic mental territories. You may be immensely talented, you may be incredibly hard-working, but if each day your mind runs constantly toward fear, judgment, and failure scenarios, your energy becomes so dispersed, so leaked, that you have nothing left to invest in real, constructive action. And the miracle is, you don't need to do anything big or dramatic to stop worrying. Sometimes you only need to take one deep breath, pull your attention away from the mental scenarios, and bring it back to one single point, the thing actually happening right now. And from the moment you do that, energy begins returning to you, like water flowing back into the stream bed. When you stop worrying, life does not suddenly change, but your energy no longer leaks into imaginary futures. You keep yourself whole. You become clearer. You act more accurately. And that is why things begin falling into their rightful place. Because ultimately, as Jung emphasized, your energy is where your gaze is. When your gaze is on fear, life becomes heavy. When your gaze is on the present, the path begins to light up beneath your feet. If you've ever gone through a phase where thinking too much made you more exhausted than the days you worked hard, share a small story. What drained your energy the most? And what moment helped you reclaim yourself? Tell it, even briefly, because perhaps your story is exactly what someone out there needs to step out of their maze of worry. I will now generate chunk 5 of 7, ensuring it is slightly larger and highly fragmented, maintaining the strict 10,000 character minimum and the Jungian Surrealism theme. This chunk will focus on worry and the persona, detailing how the need for external validation creates psychological exhaustion. Here is the highly expanded and humanized chunk, 5 of 7. The persona's hostage, worrying about the mask. Chunk 5 of 7. This chunk focuses intensely on the Jungian persona, explaining how worrying out one's social image drains energy and creates inauthentic living, ensuring the 10,000 plus character minimum. When you live to please others, when your self-worth depends on external gaze, there is a more subtle, deeply exhausting layer of worry that most people in modern society are perpetually experiencing. It is the consuming worry about their image in the eyes of others. This is precisely where the persona, that social mask Jung meticulously described, begins to structurally control your emotions, your reactions, and, most tragically, your inner freedom. Because sometimes you are not fundamentally worried about the situation itself. You are only worried about how you will look, how you will be judged in that specific situation. Modern individuals are exhausted, not only because of external pressure, but because they live like actors, forced onto a stage, in a play they never truly wanted to perform. Every action is unconsciously weighed on the scale of what people will think. Every choice is examined under the harsh, unforgiving light of external expectations, and precisely at this point, 70% of your chronic, unnecessary worries begin to intensely form. You worry not because something is structurally wrong, but because you fear people will think you are wrong. Jung once said that the persona is a necessary shell, a useful coat for us to function predictably in society. But the central, dangerous problem begins when we fundamentally forget it is only a shell. When you intensely identify with the persona, you instantly become a hostage to external judgment. A single casual criticism can make you lose sleep. A passing comment can make you question your entire self-worth. And the more you live this way, the more you worry, not about objective failure, but solely about your image. And you inevitably fail. A friend of mine named Linda spends hours editing a photo before posting it online, hours choosing a caption, and then agonizing hours worrying whether someone will think she is trying too hard, cheap, fake, or simply not good enough. There was a time she prepared a beautiful album from a beach trip, but because a friend casually said, "These photos don't look like you in real life, do they?" she deleted all of it, not because the photos were technically bad, but because her persona was hurt. Linda no longer lived to share what she loved, but lived only to be perceived through a specific, carefully curated image. And when she had to meticulously protect that image 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, she became utterly exhausted. That is what worry does. When you live through the persona, it makes you believe your core value lies in how others see you, that you are only safe when you are accepted. But that is a profound illusion, because the persona was never created to carry your soul. It is only a coat you wear in society. You may walk into a meeting with it. You may communicate politely thanks to it. But if you let it decide who you are allowed to be, worry becomes your breath, your inescapable reality. Imagine a traditional European festival mask. When you hold it in your hand, you see it is beautiful, intricate, an interesting part of the celebration. But if you wear it too long, you forget your true face. You begin to worry whether the mask is beautiful, whether it fits, and whether people like it. The mask itself doesn't hurt you, but clinging to it makes you unable to breathe freely. The persona is the same, it only becomes a burden when you fear losing it. And the paradox lies here. When you take the mask off, worry instantly disappears. Not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, but because you no longer have to play a fragile role. You no longer have to perform to please anyone. You no longer have to adjust yourself to fit fleeting expectations. You are allowed to be you. And when that happens, there is no structural reason to worry. Some may ask, but if I stop trying to please others, won't I be judged? The answer is yes. People will always judge, but the person who is not wounded by judgment is not the perfect one, but the one who is not afraid of judgment, because judgment cannot pierce someone who sees themselves clearly. A truly free person is not someone who is loved, but someone who is not afraid of losing their image. And interestingly, when you stop trying to prove yourself, you begin to become someone others find easy to approach, trustworthy, and naturally magnetic, because you are no longer defensive. You are no longer acting. You are simply yourself. And that is a kind of energy that can be felt instantly. When you stop worrying about what others think, everything begins to fall into the right place. You say what you truly want to say. You do what you truly want to do. You choose what makes your soul bright, not what makes your persona beautiful. And at that moment, worry loses its power. Because as Jung emphasized, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you return to yourself without masks, without acting, without chasing the gaze of others, Worry has nowhere to cling, and the path you walk becomes lighter, brighter, and truer, so naturally that you cannot help but smile. And from the essential moment you stop frantically acting to protect your external image, you step into a deeper layer of profound stillness, where your actions are no longer driven by panic, but by intrinsic inner clarity. This is also when a very strange, powerful law of life begins to reveal itself. When you stop worrying, your actions become astonishingly accurate. Most mistakes in life do not come from a lack of inherent ability, but from overwhelming mental noise. Worry makes you act like someone running blindly in a dense fog, running a lot, running fast, but having absolutely no idea where you are actually going. Carl Jung believed that right action, the truly effective action, only arises when a person is still enough to clearly see what truly matters in the situation. This is the deep foundation of the concept he termed right action, action arising directly from the integrated self, not from the reactive ego, because the ego always pushes you to react, while the self gently leads you to create and resolve. As Jung once wrote, with profound clarity, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Look back at the moments you were most consumed by worry in life. Have you ever made a single wise, enduring decision while your mind was in absolute chaos? Probably not. Worry makes you check your phone compulsively, talk much more than you need to, try to frantically fix everything with speed, when what you really need is simply to pause, step back, and see clearly. When the mind is blurry, action is blurry. When the mind is clear, every action is like a focused arrow hitting its precise target. I once knew a woman who ran a small online business. Whenever her sales dropped, she panicked instantly and began running massive ads, heavy discounts, constant, desperate posting, as if doing more would somehow save the chaotic situation. But the more she did, the more she lost. One weekend, too exhausted to continue the struggle, she simply stopped and reviewed her old customers. She realized most of her high-profit revenue had come from a small group of low YAL clients she had forgotten because she was too busy chasing her worry. That week, instead of jumping into new ads, she simply sent 17 heartfelt, personalized check-in messages. 10 of those loyal people immediately returned with new orders. She said, "I spent 2 months doing the wrong things because of worry and only 1 hour of calm to do the right thing." That is the difference between chaotic reaction and right action. In spiritual teachings, this truth has been known for millennia. Zen Buddhism has a famous, simple story about a Zen master and a young disciple. One day the disciple asked, "Master, how do I know which action is the right action?" The master replied, "When the water is clear, you see the bottom. When the water is muddy, you only see your reflection." The disciple asked again, "Then how do I make the water clear?" The master was silent, scooped a bucket of muddy water, set it down gently, and left it untouched. When the surface finally settled, the moon's reflection appeared perfectly. The master said, "Your job is not to stir the water to make it clear faster, but to stop stirring. Worry is the stirring. And when you stop stirring, you instantly see what you need to do." We are the same. When the mind is clear, you don't need to do more. You only need to do what's precisely right. One timely word can save a relationship. One timely decision can change the direction of your career. One timely silence can help you avoid major conflict. But when the mind is noisy, you often do the exact opposite. Speak when you should be silent. Try harder when you should stop. Run when you should stand still. Imagine an arrow shot from a bow. If the archer's hand is shaking violently from worry, the arrow will veer off even with great force. But when the archer breathes evenly, sees the target clearly, and releases the bowstring calmly, CTR minimum. And from the essential moment you begin to see clearly, thanks to the profound inner stillness. You will notice something even stranger, something miraculous. The less you worry, the smoother life becomes, in a way logic and rational thought cannot possibly explain. As if something invisible is actively arranging, connecting, placing events in exactly the right positions for you. Carl Jung called this extraordinary phenomenon synchronicity, meaningful coincidences where the outer material world precisely mirrors your deep inner shifts with uncanny, unsettling accuracy. He once wrote, Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have the eyes to see. And indeed, only when your mind is truly still enough, when the water is clear, can you recognize that these vital signs have always been around you. When you worry, you close all the doors of connection. The mind shrinks, sees only the worst possibilities, and thus you unconsciously block yourself from encountering opportunities quietly appearing. But when you stop worrying, not because things suddenly become easier, but because you stop forcing life to follow your rigid will, you open a new door, the door between you and the hidden rhythm of the universe. I once heard the profound story of a young man who went through a prolonged period of deep stagnation. He worked hard, but the harder he tried, the more tangled his projects became. One day, too utterly exhausted to keep pushing against the current, he decided to pause all frantic efforts and simply organize his small life. He cleaned his home, called his mother for a simple chat, read a book he had abandoned long ago. No expectations, no attempt to turn things around. He simply focused on being. 3 days later, an old friend suddenly texted him out of the blue, offering a collaboration opportunity in the niche field he had been desperately searching for over 6 months. He said that in that moment, he suddenly realized what I had been chasing came to find me. The moment I stopped chasing it. That is synchronicity at work, when the outer world begins aligning perfectly with your inner shift. Modern science also offers an interesting lens. When you worry, the brain activates the amygdala, forcing you into survival mode and narrowing your perception, tunnel vision. The neural pathways related to intuition, creativity, and problem-solving become muted. But when you are calm, the nervous system switches to safety mode, allowing the prefrontal cortex, the center of clarity, to function again. This not only allows you to see more options, but also helps you notice subtle connections you previously missed. Internally, the mind clears. Externally, opportunities appear, but in reality, they were always there. You were just blinded by worry. Synchronicity is not magic. It is like two frequencies accidentally aligning. When you worry, your frequency is chaotic. You emit flickering signals, preventing life from tuning into you. But when you stop forcing, you return to your natural rhythm. You become like a sail that no longer tries to violently bend the wind, but simply opens at the right moment. And then, the boat travels farther with less effort. Imagine a river. When you swim in panic, the water resists you. You become exhausted, disoriented, seeing only whirlpools. But if you lie back and float, you realize the current was always carrying you forward. That is the profound nature of synchronicity. It does not appear when you force, but when you harmonize. Carl Jung believed synchronicity is how the unconscious communicates with us through the material world. When you change inside, reality changes as well, not through miracles, but through harmony. Opportunity. Eyes you could not see become clear. Meetings that seem random become meaningful. What you need appears the moment you are ready to receive it. When you stop worrying, you create an empty, sacred space within your heart. And that space becomes the room where life finally enters. You no longer see the world through the eyes of fear, but through the eyes of clarity. And from that moment, everything begins to unfold in the most natural way. Doors open gently, the right people arrive, and events connect like a carefully written sequence meant just for you. And that is the subtle, powerful meaning of this journey. When you stop worrying, everything starts to go well. Not because the universe changes, but because you change your frequency. You stop forcing, stop twisting, stop running after the future in panic. You open yourself to the natural rhythm of life, and synchronicity, which had been waiting outside the door, finally steps in quietly but precisely, as if it had been waiting for you for a very long time. When you look back on your journey, you will notice something very delicate. The most important breakthroughs never happened on the days you were most tense, but in the moments you were calm enough to turn inward. Like a traveler realizing that the path never lights up when he runs, but only becomes clear when he stops, breathes, and lets his eyes adjust to his true light. Similarly, when you stop worrying, you are not avoiding life. You are returning to your ability to see what has always been there, but was hidden by haste, fear, and the ego's noise. You begin living from a deeper layer where intuition leads, where the self speaks, and where the events of life align like a series of subtle clues placed just for you. And if this journey speaks to you, share the video so someone out there, someone exhausted by worry, may find their anchor. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to walk with us through deeper insights on Jungian wisdom and the art of living peacefully from within. Because sometimes just one small shift inside opens an entirely new path before your eyes. The strange, undeniable truth is, life itself doesn't actually change. Only your vital, chaotic inner state changes. Carl Jung believed that people do not fail because they lack innate ability, talent, or intelligence, but because their minds are constantly, perpetually controlled by unnecessary, self-created worries. And it is precisely those worries that make you act hastily, look in the completely wrong direction, and unconsciously complicate your life into an unbearable maze. But once you step out of that internal noise, once you are calm enough to truly hear yourself, everything begins to fall back into its rightful, natural, intended place. In today's profound transmission, we will delve into the journey. Jung wants every human being to understand why the single moment you stop worrying, everything begins to fall into its proper order. And the most beautiful, liberating part is, anyone can access this state once they understand what structurally happens when the mind stops being chaotic. Are you ready to step into this inner journey? A journey where just one small shift inside can structurally redirect your entire life. Number 1. Worry is the product of the ego. There are moments in life when you feel as if you are carrying the entire, overwhelming sky on your fragile human shoulders. A small, irrelevant detail tightens you up internally. An unanswered message from a colleague makes you acutely uneasy. A situation that hasn't even happened yet is enough to send your mind spinning into catastrophic scenarios. You think it's necessary fear, a practical warning, but it is not. It is the ego, that small but persistently noisy part of you, whispering insistently in your ear, if you don't worry, if you don't maintain tension, everything will collapse. Jung once said that the ego is the part of us that always believes. It is the literal center of the universe. It thinks everything depends utterly on its micromanagement, that if it doesn't control, doesn't predict, doesn't stay tense, life will inevitably go off track, and the blame will fall solely on its shoulders. Worry, therefore, is not the necessary warning system of the soul. It is the frantic, self-aggrandizing scream of an ego struggling desperately to survive, struggling to maintain the illusion of its own omnipotence. And this self-deception is the deep root that makes the ego believe that if it simply lets go, if it doesn't worry, if it doesn't tense up to control, the world will collapse right in front of it, and it will pay the price. When you worry, you're not actually worried about what will happen. You worry because you believe you must be fully responsible for every single result, including outcomes completely outside your rational control. The ego creates the grand, toxic illusion that the world is a complex machine whose every gear you must meticulously control one by one, as if the moment you stop being tense, the machine might collapse, fall on you, and you will pay the ultimate price for relaxing. The irony, the central paradox is, it is this very worry, this frantic grasping, that makes you go the wrong way, act hastily, lose your essential intuition, and unconsciously create the very things you fear. The ego does not know how to let go, because to its narrow, terrified view, letting go means total failure. But to the self, the mature, wise, integrated part inside you, letting go is the moment you become the most awake, the most receptive to guidance. I once knew a woman named Maria, preparing to present the most important project of her team. She spent weeks preparing, but the closer the date came, the more she lost sleep from consuming worry. Every sentence she practiced was instantly interrupted by her own intrusive negative thoughts. What if I say it wrong? What if they don't like it? What if I embarrass myself? She shook so much she couldn't hold her coffee cup. On the last night, utterly exhausted, she gave up. She said, "I'm too tired to worry anymore. If I make mistakes, then I make mistakes." The next day, Maria stood on stage and spoke more clearly than ever. Not because she suddenly became better, but because when the ego stopped screaming, herself finally had the space to do what it already knew how to do. That is the profound essence of the paradox Jung spoke about. The more you worry, the more you fail. The more you let go, the clearer things become. Imagine you are holding a taut string and pulling it tightly. You try to keep it straight, force it not to shake. But the more you try, the more it vibrates, the more it goes off direction. Life is the same. You try to control it, and it slides out of your hands. The ego operates by tension. The self operates by clarity. You cannot see your path if you are too busy trying to maintain the toxic illusion that everything must go exactly your way. Only when you release the string, not releasing your final goal, but releasing the obsession with the outcome, can you truly see the path you need to walk. A person who is worried cannot create. A person who is worried cannot connect deeply with anyone. A person who is worried cannot see the opportunities standing right in front of them. Worry makes you walk in the dark with your eyes perpetually shut. Letting go makes you finally open your eyes. And that is why, when you stop worrying, everything begins to fall into place. Not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, but because you stop resisting the natural, powerful flow of your own life. When the ego is no longer interfering, the unconscious finally has the space to guide you. Your wisest decisions have never come from tension. They always come from the moments when you soften, breathe, and return to your true, unburdened self. And when you see the truth that worry is merely a product of the ego, that the ego creates the illusion that everything must go its way, you begin to let go of that unreasonable need for control. From the moment you stop trying to twist life to match the ego's demands, everything starts to move more smoothly, because you allow the self to lead, instead of letting worry dominate.